us a little slack on this, and just hope and pray that we don't describe the wrong car to you.
All right, our first car is a 1968 Lotus CC Ford Cortina engine, steel wheels and spec tires. 51C's got a 4-speed dual transaxle. It's believed that all the 51Cs were sent to North America and sold to Jim Russell racing schools. This car raced in California through '85 at least.
To a New England modified. Jim Torok here today with this car number 4. A 1935. This is a car that raced at the Danbury Race Arena in Connecticut. It was the last coupe to win a feature race in the A class at Danbury in 1980. So you're looking at racing history there from over 43 years ago, assuming it was earlier in the year it won. Gino Spada was cheered to victory by 8,600 people that day, the last victory for one of the classic coupes at Danbury.
This car was built and has raced its entire life. Came right off the showroom floor and then was modified for racing. Roll bar, racing seats, radius rear wheels, widened steel wheels, and a paint job. In its original days in the late 60s.
All right, we're going to move into the world of midget racing today. Jordan White, car number 9 out there. Gordon from Alexandria, Virginia. He is well known in the vintage racing world for his many books on race car builder. There's biographies of Frank Curtis, Harry Miller, Fred Offenhauser, among others. Tassie Vadas was the owner of this midget, the second owner of it. He was a Greek shipping tycoon out of New York. Before its last race in 1974, this car had scored 32 feature victories, including championships in 1960 and 61. Gordon took the car to the Bonneville Salt Flats, by the way. Hey, we shift gears again. We've had cars that just turn left, we've had cars that turn left and right. Now we got a car that doesn't turn at all. Here comes our first dragster for the day. Tom Young out of Baltimore, Maryland with a 1975 Dodge Coronet Roll. And if those of you who are up there are old enough to remember when cars were that big, you're not kids anymore.
Now we have Jim Hemphill of Purple, New Jersey, and he's brought out his Triumph Power 3/4 midget. The car was built by Howard Boyd in 1965 and raced until 1983. A scaled-down version of an Indianapolis Roadster. Hank Rogers Sr. and Jr. and Len Duncan all raced this car. Motorcycle.
Beautiful race car. Those midget roadsters are something else. Certainly don't see them anymore, but that is a classic example.
cars done up in the colors of the constant hot race team. They had midgets, sprint cars, and Indy cars.
Definitely not the usual thing you see. It is good to have it out running well, and we're glad the Curtis Midget is in good shape again. Blue number 29, Gambler chassis, owned by Bob Weichert and driven by the great Doug Wolfgang in 1985 and part of 1986. In 85, it won the Williams Grove National Open. Big block Chevy in it, something you don't see a whole lot because those engines were outlawed in sprint car racing after 1987. 6 years ago, this car was driven at the Vintage Indy meet at Pocono International Speedway by the great Dick Vermeil. 82 years old when he drove his first sprint car. Current owner and driver.
Next up, we have a 1961 Harley Davidson. Consecutive appearance here at Hershey. Watson family has been here in this car for the last 50 years. We know that's the longest consecutive race car, and I doubt if there's going to be anybody on the field who's more has been here for 50 years. This car's a 1933 sprint car. We've got Alan Lesher, this 1983 and a half Dodge Shelby. Now it's out of Mount Holly Springs, Pennsylvania. This car ran SCCA Improved Touring B, tracks like Lime Rock, Watkins Glen, Pocono, Nelson Ledges, and I saw it many times at Summit Point. This car won the Northeast Division.
Sprinter the restorer and driver and owner of this car, a 1974 Osborne, 50 years old next year. This car was built by Lee Osborne and a young Randy Wolf. Randy was in high school at the time. It's debuted at Tampa and got a win down there. I mean, it has had so many incredible drivers. Mark Donahue, you don't think about Mark Donahue as being a sprint car driver, but Mark Donahue drove. And he drove this for a Car and Driver article and compared it to a Penske Indy car. Photograph way off the ground, upside down, going out of the park. And that was the end of the car's career. Barry restored the car from basically a pile of junk that he got out of Iowa. And Randy Wolf, who had been involved in building the car almost 50 years ago, was involved appropriate. Move to a sprinter now that earned its name in the Midwest. Jeff Barber, he and Karen, the owners of this car. This is a Kuzma or Miskowski or both O'Reilly Ergo Sprinter from 1962. 1962, everybody. 61 years ago, this car was Lone Star JR. Bud Tinglestad drove the car. A.J. Foyt got a win in the opener in 1963 at Reading Fairgrounds and was second in a Grove race. Bobby Marshman, Roger McCluskey, Dick Atkins, just some of the other names that drove this car